after me. I'm a man. I'm 40.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into a brand new episode of Moving the Goalposts. I'm Nick DiMartino.
I'm Liam Barwick.
I forgot my own name for a second. All right, so we have a lot to get to today, but we have to start off with, you can find us on social media at ETB Network, and you can follow the show at MTGP ETB. You can follow me on Twitter at Nick DiMart, Liam at Liam MTGP. And you can follow the show at MTGP ETB on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and the Empty the Bench Network at ETB Network on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. You can find all the Empty the Bench Network shows on youtube.com/ETB Network. You can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. And you can find all the Empty the Bench podcasts on etbpodcast.com. And make sure to like and subscribe. And of course, this show is Moving the Goalpost on the Empty the Bench Network is presented by Playback. Watching sports is more fun with others, but we spend too much of our time watching alone. Playback is a virtual space where communities can stream live sports together with everyone perfectly synced up. Creators can hop on stage, deliver their own play-by-play analysis and commentary, and invite viewers up for Q&A. Playback makes watching sports fully interactive and a social experience. From playing fantasy sports, repping your favorite players and teams, and watching with the commentators and communities you care about. Win or lose, sports are best enjoyed together. Join our community by going to playback.tv/ETB Network to find out more, including our live stream schedule. Okay, so we have quite a bit to get to. Obviously, a lot going on in the NBA playoffs. Both of us are Knicks fans. So just a lot to get to with the Knicks. This was a very exciting, feel-good win. Is how I would put it. Last night, it was essentially the reverse Reggie Miller moment when everything went right for the Knicks in the last 35 seconds, which is not something that we're used to. I felt the game was over. Our friend turned the game off with 40 seconds to go. Maybe that's the reason they came back and won. Look, here's what I'll say. This was a great win. It was. I don't doubt that. It feels amazing. But this, to me, is one of those things where it's like, the fact that this feels like such a great win and we had to go through all of this to pull out this win, it makes me still a little bit concerned about the Knicks for the rest of the series. I'm concerned about the Knicks. I mean, don't get me wrong. On one hand, I understand there's two sides to this. On one hand, many people are saying the series is over because Jalen Brunson had two bad games, and he did. Last night, he went 8 for 29. From the field. Brunson rarely ever does that. By the way, it's bad. He played a really bad game by Brunson standards. He was still able to be effective, but that's not the point. And he did. He did have a few bad games. The flip side is at least all of the other role players, or at least one other role player in all of these, in each of these wins, had a really big game. Whether it was Miles McBride or Josh Hart or Hartenstein. So it's not like the Knicks were bad. It's not like Brunson being bad in these games was the end of the story and everybody else was also bad. Brunson had a bad game, but the rest of the team also had big games. I look, to me, I always think it's concerning when when you really have to barely win in these home games. And a win's a win. I'm not saying it's not, but I don't know. I'm still very concerned. A lot of people feel like this is over. It is not over. Only 2-0, and there's 2 games in Philadelphia. And look, I'm not going to count my chickens before they hatch. And I'm still honestly worried about this series.
Yeah, so I was thinking about this today. This is one of the greatest wins I think I've ever experienced as a fan. And I'm normally on the other end of a game like that.
Yeah.
Especially with the Knicks. Obviously Reggie Miller comes to mind, and obviously we weren't alive for that. And you think about Reggie Miller when that happened, a lot of Knicks fans had already left the building, and you didn't have like social media and stuff to tell you it had happened. So if you left and then you woke up the next morning and saw it in the paper or something,
Yeah.
But I've always been on the receiving end of games like that. Deshaun Jackson comes to mind.
Just in our intro video.
Right, correct. So it was unbelievable. I did not expect it. I was close to shutting it off, as our friend was. I did not, but it was it was an unbelievable March Madness type finish. Before the series, I said on the show that I was taking the Sixers in 6 games. I'm going to take the Sixers in 6 games still. I think that there is a legitimate case, as Joel Embiid said after the game, and there's not a legitimate case. Now, it's obviously, could have, should have, would have, but Philadelphia could legitimately be up 2-0 in the series. They were the better team, I thought, on Saturday. I thought they were the better team in game 2. Jalen Brunson, you said he was effective. He's been horrible. I don't think he's been effective. I think he's been horrible. The shot that he made to make it a 2-point game, it was one of the luckiest shots ever. Something must be in the juju with Philadelphia when the ball hits the rim on a 3, because that happened to them obviously in Toronto before. Now it's happened to them again, but he got a very lucky bounce, and if he hadn't got that bounce, he would have missed every 3 that he took. He's completely let down the role players. Hartenstein and DiVincenzo have been terrific in the first 2 games. Brunson has been horrible. And Philadelphia, I think you would agree, have the 2 best players on the court in both games.
Embiid and who else?
Tyrese Maxey.
Okay, Maxey. Yeah.
So I think that you can look at it as in one of 2 ways. You could look at it as the Knicks played horrible and won the 2 games, or you could look at it as Philadelphia is the better team. I think Philadelphia is the better team, even though they have the 2 best players on the court. They only have 2 players. But even with that, they are the best team. They are the better team. The thing that would concern me is that as the game dragged on, as the game started, Joel Embiid looked great. As the game dragged on, Joel Embiid did not look great. Not in that he couldn't score. He was scoring a lot. In that he was having trouble getting up the court. He didn't get a rebound in the 4th quarter. And he looked very immobile. He was taken to the end of the bench at one point to have his knee worked on, and he had a towel over his head. As the games go on, that's going to worsen. That would be a concern for me if I was Philadelphia. But right now, I think that this is obviously it's still a series, and I think that Philadelphia has a chance still to win this series in 6 games because they have been the better team in the 2 games, in my opinion. Now, the other thing that I would say to what you were saying is that I want jail time, legitimate jail time, for the people who were on 7th Avenue after the game, Knicks fans, chanting Knicks in 4 and we want Boston. Someone should have stood out there with a rifle, because if you're chanting that, I mean, it's beyond stupid. You don't understand anything about sports. And the other thing they shouldn't do, because we already tried this a couple of years ago, is they should stop the fuck Embiid chants as well. They're doing it when he goes to the line. They're doing it outside the Garden. It's not a good idea. I think he's the best player in the NBA when he's healthy, and it's not a good idea to poke the bear.
Yeah, I totally agree with all of that. I think it was certainly an over celebration, and that's not particularly uncommon with sports fans. I think they were just. Here's the thing: you're looking at it from much more rational. Me and you are looking at it from much more rational perspectives, which is like, all right, we barely slid past. Like, okay, sure, we're happy that we won, but like, let's be honest, we barely won these games, and now we have to go on the road. We barely won our 2 home games. And from the way the Knicks have played the past couple of games, it doesn't look like that it's exactly going to be a walk in the park going on the road to Philadelphia. So chanting, "We want Boston," when you haven't even won the series yet, you have to win 2 more games.
That was after game 1.
Yeah, after game 1. And, even if it was after game 2, it doesn't really matter. The whole "we want Boston" thing is just so idiotic. It's like the most Knick fan thing to just try and, I guess, count your chickens before they hatch, essentially. It's like, no, you have to. We could be up 3-0, and I would say the same thing. But even then, like, we're only up 2-0 after 2 home games. That is a mile and a half before being up 3-0. You're supposed to win the first 2 games at home. We were favored both those games by a little bit. So it's like, and guess what? Philadelphia next game, I mean, game 4, we don't know yet, but next game and probably game 4, they're favored. They're favored by 4.5 points.
Right.
So it's not like this series is over, and people are talking about Brunson being terrible those 2 games. And that is 100% true. He was terrible. The problem is that you're forgetting the other side, which is that a bunch of role players also had unsurprisingly great games. It's not like Brunson was terrible and everybody else was the same. It was more like Brunson was terrible and a bunch of role players picked up the slack for him. Miles McBride put up 21 points on Saturday night. How many times is Miles McBride going to do that? He's probably not going to do that another time in the playoffs, let alone the series. Like, that's just not a likely thing to happen. I think the thing that makes, now I was looking at odds on this. Now they have odds for the particular games, but not for the series. But I'll say the one thing that certainly does help the Knicks right now, because
what does that mean?
What?
They don't have odds for the series. What do you mean by that?
Or maybe they do, but I didn't see it.
What are you talking about? To win the series?
Yeah.
The Sixers are plus 400 to win the series.
Oh, okay. Then the Sixers are plus 400.
And the Knicks are plus 200 to win in 5, plus 250 to win in 6, 450 to win in 7. 200 to win in 250 to win in 4. Anyway, Sixers are plus 650 to win in 6, plus 750 to win in 7, and plus 400 to win the series overall.
Plus 400 to win the series overall.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
The Knicks are minus 450.
Okay. So the odds are according to the betting odds. According to the betting odds, the odds are in the Knicks' favor. To be quite honest, I would not make that bet. I would go the other way. If you're a bettor, I don't think it's a bad idea to bet the Sixers plus 400. Those are pretty good odds.
Not at all. Yeah, it's a good idea.
You don't think those are good odds?
I'm saying it's not a bad idea at all.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's like those. That's what I'm saying. Those are good odds.
And also, I mean, we have to forget. Also, I understand. Okay, Brunson's look bad, and people are saying the Knicks. The Knicks. Oh, they were. Even with Brunson playing bad, they're winning the games. Philadelphia have 2 players, and one of them is on one leg as well. Yeah. So it's not exactly inspiring. Let's talk about the play. So let's talk about Nick Nurse. Wanted a couple of things. First of all,
we didn't bring that up yet. Nick Nurse.
That's what I'm bringing up right now.
Okay.
First of all, the ball gets inbounded, and if you watch the video, as soon as he gets the ball, they want to get the ball in quick. They can't get the ball in quick. The second they don't get the ball in quick, he should have called a timeout. That's where he made the first mistake. The second that he saw we couldn't get it in quick, he should take a timeout. He doesn't. He runs the end line. Nick Nurse pump fakes a timeout. They get it into Maxey. This is where one of the controversies started, because Jalen Brunson does tug his jersey a little bit. But in real time, if you watch the play in real time, it's very hard to see it. When it's easy to see it is when the play is slowed down and closed up. And also, we're playing playoff basketball in the last minutes, in the last seconds of a playoff game. I said this to you before the show. Even if the roles were reversed and it was Brunson getting the ball and Maxey was defending him, I would have no problem with not calling a little jersey tug, honestly. The ball goes up in the air. Maxey catches it, falls to the ground. Now, this is where I thought it was bad refereeing. One, it was one of two things. One, it should have been a foul on the Knicks, which I didn't think it was because both players kind of held back. Or two, it should have been a travel because he fell to the ground with the ball. But they didn't call either one, and the ball gets loose, and that's when Nick Nurse comes sort of onto the floor and calls a timeout. But he doesn't say in the press conference that if you watch the video, Maxey does not have the ball.
Right.
They cannot call a timeout. They push it to DiVincenzo. DiVincenzo misses. There's not an exaggeration. There's 4 76ers, one of them being Embiid, and Isaiah Hartenstein. And Isaiah Hartenstein gets the rebound, which Philadelphia has had a gigantic problem rebounding the ball. And he kicks it back out to DiVincenzo. It was a great rebound, by the way. He blew past Embiid, who we said was hurt, jumped over 4 guys, caught it, threw it to DiVincenzo. DiVincenzo, to his credit, after missing a gigantic shot, had the confidence to just put it back up and nailed it. He said in the press conference he felt like shit after he missed the first one. So credit to him for having the confidence to shoot it again. Nailed it. And it was a wild sequence of events. And then Hartenstein, who we've talked about the role players being great, on the defensive end, Maxey got the ball, had a clear lane, went to the lane, and Hartenstein blocked the layup. And the Knicks won. So as much complaining as they could say about there was a jersey tug or there might have been a shove on the loose ball, they could not get a rebound 4-on-1 with one of them being Embiid. They didn't call a timeout when they should have called a timeout, and they didn't make a layup when they had a chance to win it. And also, the other thing I don't like is if you're going to nitpick. I mean, there was a play, the game changing play was the Knicks were up 1. They missed, got an offensive rebound. Kyle Lowry whacked Dante DiVincenzo. They called it a foul. The replay, it looked like a clear foul to me. He hit him in the shoulder and the head. Charles Barkley, who was a Sixers fan, said he hit him in the shoulder and the head. They reversed the call, gave the ball to the Sixers, and the Sixers went and scored. There was also a play in the fourth quarter where they called an N1 that Joel Embiid scored that wasn't even close to a foul, as the announcer said. So if you want to nitpick referees, we could nitpick referees all day. That wasn't why they lost the game. And the Sixers lose this. If the Sixers are to lose this series, they'll lose the series because they can't rebound. Right.
No, I totally agree. No, you're totally right about that. I'm not a big blame the refs kind of guy. I'm like, of course, like bad calls happen and some of them are going to go your way and others are not. And, it was talked about a lot over the weekend, but also the fact that Nick Nurse was like conveniently leaving out a very important part, which is that Maxey had already lost possession of the ball when he fully called timeout. By the way, if you see the video, he's on the sidelines. He is not calling a timeout. He's like pump faking it. He's like pulling it back. Like he was obviously not trying to call timeout. He was like about to, but he didn't call timeout. So for him to just be like, I was calling timeout on the sidelines, No, you weren't. He was not. He was obviously kind of like pump faking it. And yeah, that is just very obvious. Also, it's like, I don't know, come back and look, there are a bunch of calls on both sides. It could have happened on both sides if you want to talk about bad calls. And the Knicks did get a little lucky. Brunson got that lucky bounce.
Right.
And
he lost the ball before that even happened. He lost the ball. There was a scramble.
Right. And things like that, obviously, that just happens in sports. Like every single thing is not going to go your way. And I mean, look, everybody wants to, and this is not just true of sports, it's just true in general. You want to feel like you're getting screwed over because that feels a little bit better. And that's just, it's an easier thing to look at. You naturally have a bias towards that, but they're just not like presenting the full picture. And, obviously forgetting all of the very favorable calls or no calls that went in their own direction. Now, look, Embiid, people are talking about Embiid. I'm not going to criticize Embiid very much because he's playing on one leg. I saw Colin Cowherd talking about Embiid not being able to win a playoff series. First of all, they're only down 2-0, 2 road games. It's not over at all. They're still in this series. And like you said, I do agree. I think the Sixers are probably a better team. The other thing is that, like, if he's on one leg, what are you going to do? like there's not much you can. He's doing it. Like he still is putting. Like he still put up 34 points.
Also, what about the who said that he can't win a series?
Colin Cowherd.
I mean, also, does he forget that they had the Hawks dead and buried one year, and then Ben Simmons passed up an easy dunk that completely changed the season and all this stuff. I mean, that's a ridiculous thing. I mean, Embiid is a great player. It's a team sport, though, frankly. I mean, LeBron didn't do much in the play. He went to the finals one year, but he didn't do much in the playoffs before he went to Miami. I mean,
well, that's not true. He made the finals one year, but
I said that. But besides that, he wasn't a legitimate contender for the finals. They weren't a legitimate contender the year they went to the finals. They get destroyed in that finals. So that's ridiculous. The other thing I wanted to add too was if Nick Nurse was, as good a coach too, then Kyle Lowry, who's an NBA veteran and who he coaches, should also know that if the plan was to get the ball out, he said that the ref didn't see him, Nick Nurse. So if the plan was to get the ball out quick, as soon as they can't get the ball out quick, Kyle Lowry should have called the timeout then, who was inbounding the ball. And they wouldn't have had a problem seeing him because he has the ball.
Right.
So, if there was, you could nitpick so much stuff, but at the end of the day, it's a 48-minute game. And you could nitpick so many things.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely true. It's kind of the easier thing to do. It's basically just the easier thing to do is to just blame the officiating without ever considering the fact that the officiating has just really been bad on both sides, as if like none of it ever happened. But my view on this as a fan is that this is a feel-good win. But the fact that it's such a feel-good win and felt so amazing is why I'm concerned for the future of it. It's kind of like when Alabama loses a game. It's kind of like when Alabama lost to not this past season, the season before, when they lost to LSU and Tennessee, and people were like, is their dynasty almost over? Is Nick Saban not as good of a head coach anymore? Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, if it took losing really close games on the road to powerhouse SEC schools, Tennessee, who was tremendous that season, and LSU, that goes to show you how good Alabama is, that they have such high expectations that this is the end, that's what it takes to beat them. And that's like the sky, and people act like the sky is falling. It's the same thing with the Knicks right now, except it's the opposite, which is that, okay, you were barely able, you got kind of lucky to win game 2 at home. Now you have to go play 2 games on the road. The Sixers are favored in the next game by 4.5 points.
Yeah.
They have the best 2 players on the floor, or at least Embiid is the best player. so far Brunson hasn't been great, but you know, you get the point. It's like I'm just really struggling to feel feel as confident about this series as a lot of other Knicks fans are.
Yeah. I also think, I mean, Knicks fans are a delusional fan base at times, of course.
I think
every fan base is.
All fan bases are a little bit delusional at times.
Correct.
I think Knicks fans are sometimes up there. I would argue that, like, I don't know. I guess Jet fans and Giant fans, I think, are very delusional too.
Well, I mean, yeah, the Jets were preparing, Super Bowl tickets before the season started.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, that's how it's like. That's how it's like with all of our teams.
Right.
So Knicks and Sixers. Knicks and Sixers. On Thursday. Thursday night. Sixers are 4.5 over under -4.5 over under 203.5.
Yeah, Sixers -4.5. I think they'll beat the Knicks by a lot in this game. They have to win the game. The Knicks don't have to win the game. I think even in series where there's a high mismatch, which this is not one of them, the team that's down 2-0 and has the first home game a lot of times gets a win, even if they're not the better team, just because of the way they're playing is more desperate. So I'll take Philadelphia.
Yeah, I have to agree, and I hope I'm wrong about this.
I would probably take the under as well.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll touch it. 4.5 is what I think that sounds about right. I think they'll cover. Like you said, it's a must win for the Sixers. The Sixers have a lot to prove. It's game 1 at home. It's the first game at home, which, like I said, when you're down 2-0 is not easy at all. I think, yeah, it's not so much that it's not just because I think the Sixers are a better team and they probably are a little bit better, like I said, but just like in this spot, I think they'll. It's just a must win. They have more to play for.
We have to talk about the end of game 1, by the way. Did you see this with Tyrese Maxey? So the Knicks were up by 7 on the last play of the game, and you saw this, they were laying 4.5 points, and Maxey got the ball, and the buzzer went, and he heaved it up past half court, and it went in. He drained it, which would have made it a 4-point game, except that he did it after the buzzer. So that was it would have been. To be fair, you can't really feel bad for people who had Sixers 4.5 because that would be an insane way to cover. But if you were a Knick -4.5, that would have been up there as one of the worst beats in the history of sports.
Yeah, no, definitely. I was thinking we were doing the live stream of that game when he hit the half court shot, but it didn't count.
Right.
The thing is that I agree. I would not. I'm not going to really the bad beat would have been the other way around. Not so much.
Right.
Not the fact that he hit it and it was a little bit after the buzzer.
Correct. Because you wouldn't have been covering anyway.
Right. I mean, Maxey's been great this series.
Yeah. He has.
He's been better than he's certainly been a better.
And he was sick. He woke up sick yesterday.
Yeah. So, waking up sick, it's like,
yeah.
When I'm sick, I can barely move. So that's all I got to say about that. It's just we just have to kind of keep our heads down. The one good thing about this is that we're in. I think this is a tougher series. This might be a tougher series than what we have coming up potentially. So it could, but you know what?
Don't even.
I'm just saying.
Finish the series first.
Finish the series first. I'm just saying we have to keep our heads down and focus.
Correct.
And we can't count our chickens before they hatch. That's obviously not going to be a winning strategy. All right. So another game that involved complaining about the refs was the Lakers and Nuggets. Obviously, and we're going to get into Jokic's brother punching the guy in the stands, but we'll get to that in a minute. This is a similar type of thing, and And the thing is, people are talking about the Sixers and the Knicks and how the Sixers, this is just a crushing loss for the Sixers. And it's like, to me, okay, maybe it's a little crushing in some way. But they were on the road. They barely lost that game. We went into all that. I think that this loss for the Lakers is like a million times worse because the Nuggets are a gauntlet. They are not an easy team to beat. And
right.
They have the Nuggets, Denver, they have home court if this goes to 7 games. So it's not like, the team that has home court is obviously that can certainly make a difference. And that's assuming that these teams play on an equal level. And even that's not likely to happen. And so basically the only hope that the Lakers had really was to steal a game on the road. And the Lakers, they just can't beat the Nuggets. Like it was like how Michael Jordan used to not be able to beat the Pistons. This is what the Lakers right now are with the Nuggets. And Jokic and Murray, they did not have a good first half. And if there was ever a time where you were able to win a game in this spot, it would have been this. It would have been that would have been the game. Last night, that would have been the game. And the Lakers blew it. Like, to me, this loss is like a million times worse for the Lakers and the Sixers because this series almost feels over. And by the way, proof of this is that I'm not saying Vegas is everything, but I think Vegas is very telling. The Nuggets are still favored on the road. The Knicks are a much more beatable team than the Nuggets are. And I don't know. I feel like the rest of the series is just going to be a gauntlet for the Lakers.
Yeah, I mean, they can't beat them. I agree. They blew a 20-point lead, so the complaining about the refs to me is irrelevant there. But in their defense, I don't understand what the point of replay is, where we're at, where the call that they're talking about. I mean, D'Angelo Russell got whacked in the face.
Yeah.
And they reversed it. I mean, it wasn't even one where they hadn't called it and then didn't reverse it. They had called the foul. That sometimes I just don't understand things like that in the replay, because to me that's an obvious foul. I think to most people that's an obvious foul. So I didn't understand that. I will say I can't think of a worse situation in life than the one Anthony Davis was in. Now he played, you can't really blame Anthony Davis at all because he did play good defense on the shot. But then he fell into the Nuggets bench as they were dogpiling on the guy that just made a shot in his face for the buzzer beater and was like literally stuck on the Nuggets bench while they were dogpiling. I mean, that's just awful. But yeah, the Knicks, the Lakers can't beat the Nuggets, and the Lakers are having the opposite issue that the Knicks are having because guys like Austin Reeves are not showing up for the Lakers. Their bench player, their role players, have not showed up for the Lakers in the first 2 games of the series.
That's
and
the problem.
Like you said, the Nuggets are a buzzsaw. They're going to win this series in 5, I think.
You think? I think that maybe
I think the Lakers will take 3.
I think maybe. 3. Yeah, I think the Lakers could take 3 because of the level of desperation that they're going to be playing. Although I'm not as confident in it as I am with the Sixers. I mean, like, it's very unusual for it. That just goes to show you how good the Nuggets are, because it's very unusual for a team going into the game 3 to be when they're up 2-0, 2-0, to be the favorite. That usually does not happen, even when one team is clearly better than the other. I mean, 6 games, I think it maybe could get to 6 games. I don't think that's I mean, to me, I think that a 6-game series, even though it's 6 games, could still not be very close. There are 6-game series where I say this wasn't very close. I remember one time the Cavs, when LeBron was on the Cavs, they beat the Raptors in 6 games. It was 6 games, but it was like it seemed like a very easy 6 games. Like the Raptors were able to pull off 2 wins at home, but it still felt pretty easy for the Cavs. Right. This is kind of what I think it would feel like with the Nuggets in this series. That look like they're just too good of a team. And like I said, they could maybe now. Now, I think I would have a slightly different view if the Lakers were able to win. And another thing you didn't bring up was that horrible shot LeBron took. That 3-point shot that he missed.
It wasn't. I would say that I wouldn't say it was a good shot. You have to take the shot. He just didn't make it.
Right.
He was wide open.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying it was necessarily a bad. I shouldn't say it was a bad shot. He missed it. LeBron is any like star players are generally expected to hit those shots. It's all it's all different things like that. I mean,
Right.
It's hard to blame Anthony Davis for what happened. He still put up like 32 points.
No, and he I mean, he did what there was nothing really else you could do to defend the shot.
Right.
I mean, he put his hand in his face. He just shot it really high.
Right.
Yeah, I can't blame them. So, in terms of picking the game on on Thursday, I would take the Lakers and the points.
Yeah, I hold on. Yeah, I agree. I would take the Lakers money line. And
which one is the over under?
I made a mistake. The 216 is the over under.
I don't know. I mean, I would probably take. I'd probably take the over.
You would? I would probably go with the under. That seems like a lot, but I probably wouldn't actually bet real money on it.
Yeah, I don't know if I would bet real. I would bet real money on the Lakers plus 1.5 though.
Yeah. Lakers plus 1.5, even Lakers money line, I would actually take. And like you were talking about with the Lakers bench, I totally agree. The only player they had a total of 6 bench points last night, and it was from Taurean Prince.
Yeah,
it was Taurean Prince hitting 2 threes, and that was it. Everybody else, and by the way, Hachimura was awful. He didn't do anything that game.
No.
Hachimura didn't do anything. And look, I mean, you do have some star players. I mean, Anthony Davis is a bit of a wild card. You don't always know what you're going to get.
right.
Although I can't blame him for. I mean, if you put up 32 points, and get 11 rebounds, there's not that much more he could have really done. So I don't blame Anthony Davis, although he wasn't great in the fourth quarter. But the thing is that like sometimes the team that just has far better depth. I mean, like the Nuggets, they just have too many pieces.
Agreed. Yeah, of course.
Between Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, it's all like these are like the team is just such a gauntlet.
I mean, they were as dominant in the playoffs as the 2017 Warriors were.
Yeah, exactly. And the 2017 Warriors were a super team that like we've never seen before, or at least that was the perception at the time.
Right.
The 2017 Warriors. That's absolutely true. And they have winners, I guess you could say.
Right.
They have winners. The Lakers, I mean, the thing is, LeBron spent all of his career in the East, and which obviously has for most of our lives been the weaker conference.
Right.
Now he's in the West and is going up against these sort of like impossible matchups where look, LeBron could have the best game in the world. It is just these teams are just too good. These teams are just too good. Another thing, I don't know if you want to talk about this series, the Suns and Timberwolves.
All I would say is
sorry.
All I'm gonna say is I think the Timberwolves are going to win easily in 5.
You think they'll win in 5?
Yeah, the Suns have been, the Suns, it seems, are just not built for the postseason, and the Timberwolves have the best defense in the NBA, and it's showing. And Anthony Edwards is a star, and I just don't see. I don't see the Suns coming back in the series at all.
I agree. I agree, especially after game 1. I think that there's obviously I think that there's obviously a very big talent gap between these two teams. Durant, I think, is just I wouldn't say he's not built for the postseason because he has postseason success, but right now, he doesn't look like he's the same player that he once was. I think his legacy is going to be hurt a lot. I used to think, I think my opinion of Kevin Durant in the past couple of years has really gone way down. I don't know if you feel the same way.
Yeah.
Like he's a stat monster, but he doesn't seem to be making his teammates better very much. And I think he's slowly becoming one of the more overrated stars we've seen in our generation.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
And you know, it just seems like a disappointment to me. I mean, I guess if you're a Net fan, you're kind of happy about it.
Right. Yes, probably.
If you're a Net fan, I guess. By the way, I do want to talk a little bit about Jokic's brother punching the guy in the stands. You saw this video, right?
Yeah.
So it is like the most Jokic thing. This guy, if I just saw this guy on the street, I'd be like, this guy looks like he could be Jokic's brother. I feel like I don't know what this was over, is the question that I'm asking. Like, what started this fight? Fights between sports fans I find to be very odd because I can't quite figure out. I always want to know what starts it. Like, you're there watching a game. It is weird, especially in that environment, to like just start throwing punches. Like it
Right.
is, you know, I don't know. It is a bit of an odd thing. What was your reaction to this?
I've seen them go nuts before, his brothers. I think as a general rule of thumb, you shouldn't ever fuck with somebody whose country didn't exist before 1997. So any of these like war-torn Soviet countries, I would not fuck with anyone from there. And I think that the guy should be, rewarded for being able to eat a punch from Jokic's brother.
Yeah, that too.
I mean, you would think that a punch from Jokic's brother would probably kill somebody. So I think that he's done well there, at least.
Yeah. No, apparently the Denver police are investigating it too, from what I heard, and the NBA is also.
Yeah.
I don't know how often the NBA or Denver or police departments actually investigate a punch from a fan at a game.
And I also think a hot take that fights in sports stadiums and stuff should not be up for assault and stuff charges. It should be let them fight, ban them, whatever. But once it gets out of there, it's out of there.
Well, that's usually how it works. I mean, I don't know many people who end up getting arrested. Well, that's not entirely true. I guess it kind of depends. Like if you just sucker punch somebody in a stadium, I would say that probably is worthy of an assault charge. But most of the time, like that Ranger, I think that happened with that Ranger fan.
Yeah.
And he was like knocked out. That's different. But most of the time, it involves two drunk idiots that are fighting over something really unbelievably stupid.
Right.
I wonder if that guy found. I don't know. I just would like to have seen what actually led to this whole thing.
Yeah, that would be electric.
It was pretty entertaining. I would say. I wonder if that guy knew it was Jokic's brother.
I would guarantee he did.
Yeah, probably. I would say he probably did. It looks a lot like him too. Totally looks like he would be Jokic's brother. Another series, Bucks and Pacers. I know.
I'm gonna take. I actually think if Giannis doesn't come back soon, I think the Pacers are gonna win the series. The Pacers have they tied the series tonight. They've beaten the Bucks, I think 4 out of 5. So 6 out of 7 they've beaten them. So with 6, so 5 of them, 4 of the 5 wins. I can't do math. 5 out of 6 they've beaten them. No, wait, whatever. 5 out of 7 they've beaten them. 4 of the 5 wins have been with Giannis playing. Without Giannis playing, I think there's no chance that they can beat Indiana, the Bucks. And I think that the first game was Indiana is a very young team and sort of their introduction to the playoffs. But obviously, Vegas agrees because the Pacers have been favored in every game this season, this series. So right now, I would, if Giannis isn't playing, I would probably take the Pacers.
Right. But the question is, when is Giannis supposed to come back?
It's game by game right now. So
it's game by game. Game by game means that it means it's very likely that he wouldn't. And even if he does come back, he could be like Embiid.
right.
He's like he could be on one leg. And I mean, look, that's better, I suppose. But if Giannis is on one leg, he's not the same player that he is when he's healthy. So even if he does come back, it's not great. I mean, I will say I like the Pacers this game also. But I also like the under. I think 225 points is a lot. I would probably go with the under. But you never know how this is going to go. But I would still go with the under. I just think this is too much.
Yeah, agreed.
So there's some other stuff we have to get to. Okay, so NFL draft. There's a lot coming up. Both of our teams have top 10 picks. This is actually a very quarterback-heavy draft. The NFL draft is one of those things where it's like, I think it's a little overhyped in a lot of ways. It's really good for the first round, and then the next 2 rounds are kind of, the next 6 rounds, the next 2 days of the draft are kind of eh. But the first round, I think, is the first round is always a very big story. And this year, there's a whole bunch of quarterbacks that are going to be picked in the top 10. You're a Giant fan.
Mhm.
The Giants have the 6th pick. There is a good chance the Giants actually take a quarterback. I mean, I think we all know Caleb Williams is going number 1, and it looks like Jaden Daniels is going to go number 2 to Washington. I think it might. It certainly is possible, by the way, that it's going to be all quarterbacks. So it's going to be a bunch of, like, the first 4 picks might be quarterback, or first 3 picks might just be quarterbacks.
Right. This would be a bad idea to draft a quarterback, especially because the quarterback that would be available at 5, it would be J.J. McCarthy, who I don't have any faith in as a quarterback. But it doesn't make any sense because we've got a quarterback we're paying $40 million for right now. It doesn't make any sense. And you're trying to rebuild a team, and you're and you're already paying a quarterback $40 million, and then you're gonna bring on a quarterback, use your first pick to draft a quarterback when you're paying a quarterback $40 million. This doesn't make any sense. To me, you have to take you cannot take a quarterback. I would take either Malik Nabers, I would take Joe Alt, or I would trade the pick. Honestly, I hope they trade the pick and get more picks, because I don't think that there's anyone that's transcendent right now that the Giants could use besides Joe Alt. But I mean, to take a quarterback here, it just doesn't make any sense. And the people, I don't understand people who are like, well, they gave Daniel Jones a bad contract, so they have to. Okay, but the people who gave Daniel Jones the bad contract are the same people who are going to draft the quarterback. So why do we trust the people who gave him the bad contract to pick the next quarterback? It doesn't make any sense, and it does nothing to them in terms of moving forward, because now you're going to bring someone else in, and you're paying a quarterback $40 million. Doesn't make any sense.
I kind of agree with you. I agree, not exactly for the same reasons. I agree with you that it's a bad idea to take a quarterback, probably because the quarterback available will probably be J.J. McCarthy, and I don't have much faith in J.J. McCarthy. I have much more faith in, like, Caleb Williams, Daniels, Drake
But
May.
there's a 0% chance that those guys will be available.
Exactly my point. They won't be available. I would actually, if I were a Giant fan, I'd actually be fine with them trading the pick. I wouldn't take issue with that. I don't know if you saw this. Michael Penix actually wrote a letter in, I think it was the Players Tribune or something, to NFL GMs talking about his injuries. I don't know if you saw this or not.
No.
So basically, he basically wrote a letter to like NFL GMs. It was on. Let me just double check this. Yeah, the Players Tribune, a letter to NFL GMs. It said 4 season-ending injuries in 4 years. How do I reconcile that? And he, tries to answer the question, and it's all very like standard stuff, a way to like talk himself up, and none of it is bad or anything. Although I don't think any of it is really all that convincing, because when you're taking, like, he's probably supposed to be picked in the top 5, or projected to. He's been injured. He's been tremendous in college. Don't get me wrong. He has the best arm. He had the best arm of any quarterback in college football last year. He threw the best deep ball. But he was injured constantly. He took a lot of big hits. And, the thing is that when athletes are always injured in college, it usually follows them into the pros. If you look at like that Venn diagram is a circle, basically. Players that are injury prone in college are always injury prone in the NFL. And
Right.
It's one thing if you pick a quarterback in like a late round pick when you already have a starter. In this case, for an NFL team, it would be a top 5 pick most likely, or maybe a top 10 pick. And yeah, he's a tremendous player, but it's like, I think it's just going to be too much of I think a lot of teams are just going to deem him to be too much of a risk.
Yeah, and I don't think I've seen any experts putting him higher than 4th in terms of, higher than 5th in terms of the ranking the quarterbacks.
Yeah, although what do the experts know? They don't always know much.
No. And then in terms of the Jets, I think the Jets is much more clear cut. I think everyone pretty much knows who the Jets want.
Brock Bowers.
Correct. And I think that's who they're going to get.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that that's who they're most likely going to take. That's what the betting odds say. I mean, Caleb Williams going 1, that's just too obvious. It seems like.
I think 1 and 2 are obvious.
Yeah, 1 and 2 seem pretty obvious. But I think a lot of these players. I think this year's draft class is sort of similar, not as hyped from my memory, but it seems sort of similar to the 2017 or 2018 draft class with Darnold.
It works out better.
What's that?
I said, let's hope they work out better.
Yeah, because half of those quarterbacks were busts, and there's a good chance the same thing is going to happen this time. I mean, chances are some of them are going to be sort of busts. I mean, I don't know. I never bought into the whole JJ McCarthy hype. I think he was a good college quarterback. He was good in that, and he was a decent player in a very good situation. I don't see him really I don't see all of that translating to the NFL.
Right.
Drake May is an interesting one because experts are talking. I think most experts seem to agree that he isn't accurate, that he lacks accuracy and is a quote unquote project. Some people are saying that he's going to have to sit for like 2 or 3 years. I think that's ridiculous. I don't buy into this notion that quarterbacks have to sit until they get PhDs, until they can finally get on the field. I never bought into that notion. I feel like, if you're good enough to be drafted, I'm not saying you got to start right away, but it's like, I'm not going to draft a guy with the intention of, you're going to be sitting for, 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I agree.
To me, it just, I don't know. It just seems like, I wouldn't want that. So another thing I want to get to a little bit, Zach Wilson finally gets traded to the Broncos for essentially a bag of chips. Zach Wilson and The Jets sent Zach Wilson and a 7th round pick to the Broncos for a 6th round pick. It was barely worth. He was barely worth anything.
Yeah, so they should. I think that the Broncos should force him to wear the number 3 so that fans don't have to buy new jerseys. But I think it's I think that the Jets will obviously this looks bad for the Jets. What happened there with Zach Wilson? They just I was never thought that I thought that it was always overhyped. I mean, he was the 2nd pick because of a video, basically, essentially, of one throw. I mean, you have to realize he didn't even really play in college. In terms of games, he played a very little amount of games. I never thought that he would. I thought that he always sort of was in a bad system, and then I think that once stuff starts to snowball, then it could fucks you up. But I don't know. Was that Russell Wilson actually had a much better year under Sean Payton than he did under Nathaniel Hackett. So we'll see if they're able to develop Zach Wilson into something else. I think it's a mutual breakup here between both sides, and I think that it's best for both sides, especially once the Jets. Excuse me. Especially once the Jets had brought Tyrod Taylor on, that's when you knew that Zach Wilson was going to be in trouble. And I think that he's definitely shown flashes. He has a lot of talent, but I'd like to see. I'd be interested to see him in a different setting.
Yeah, well, that would be interesting to see how much of it has to do with the Jets. People talk about how bad the Jets franchise is, and it is true. The Jets have a defensive-minded head coach. I don't think that tends to not work as well for young quarterbacks. And Sean Payton's an offensive-minded head coach, although he is going to the Broncos. I don't know how. I mean, based on their recent history, I don't know how great of a system that's going to be for Zach Wilson. It certainly wasn't great for Russell Wilson. So,
but like I just said, he had a much better year under Sean Payton, though.
True. No, I totally agree. He definitely had the Broncos had a stretch where they had a chance at making the playoffs for a while.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, they at one point they had they had the longest win streak in the NFL. At one point in the season. Yeah. Right.
And I guess we're gonna kind of forget that. I mean, look, Zach Wilson even at least had a few decent games with the Jets last year. I don't know. I just think it would be interesting. Now, I was never a big fan of I wasn't a big fan of Zach Wilson for a while, mainly because the Jets couldn't even trust him to throw passes. It was just the system that they ran, knowing that he obviously didn't have much ability.
Yeah, and it would be also if he were to be successful in Denver, it would be a huge indictment on Saleh as well.
Yeah. No, it would make Saleh look. It would make Saleh look really bad if he has.
I don't think it really matters because if the Jets, I think it's the Jets are either going to be a really good team this year, and if they're not a good team this year, he'll be fired anyway. So.
Yeah. No. That is. That's probably true.
I mean, I don't think there's anyone that thinks that if the Jets, I think everyone will tell you that if the Jets don't have what they would consider a successful year, that he'll be fired.
Yeah, the question is though, how do you define successful year?
Right. It's I don't want to say that in April because you would have your perception of what would be a successful year for the Jets changed 4 plays into the season last year.
Well, that's because of a major injury.
Correct, which is why I'm saying I don't want to say in April what would constitute a successful season.
Right,
exactly. If Aaron Rodgers didn't get injured, if you said before the season that they were going to finish 7-10, right? So if you said they were going to finish 7-10 without saying the Rodgers injury, he would have been fired.
Correct.
So, in context, obviously everything changes, but he has not improved anything at the Jets since he got there. They're sort of in the same position.
You're talking about Saleh.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that I would say yes, that's true.
In a weaker division than when he started too.
Yeah, that's true. Don't get me wrong. I mean, look, Robert Saleh is definitely on the hot seat, but he got a little bit of a pass because Aaron Rodgers was injured.
Correct.
I mean, if they're somehow not a playoff team, he's definitely fired.
Correct.
If Aaron Rodgers doesn't
Correct.
it stays healthy, obviously.
Especially with it being very easy to make the playoffs now.
Right. It's much easier. The only thing is that they're in the tougher conference, or at least last year it was the tougher conference. Now they at least, though, have a backup quarterback who is serviceable, Tyrod Taylor. So you don't he doesn't have as much of an excuse as he did when Zach Wilson never should have even been the backup, the first backup. He shouldn't have been any higher than like the third string. So I don't. Are you going to watch the draft?
I'll be watching the next.
You watch? Yeah, me too. I mean, I'll probably watch a little bit of both.
I mean, the draft it does good ratings, but you actually don't have to watch the draft.
You don't.
You can just be told. Right.
Yeah. Especially when you know what some of the picks are going to be. But occasionally, I don't know. I like to get into it a little bit. I don't know. I like the feeling of suspense.
Correct.
So I do want to bring this up. I did show you this video. Aaron Boone, he got ejected, and he got ejected for something he didn't say.
Right.
He got thrown out for something he didn't say.
Right.
I showed you the video.
Yes.
He was a fan was yelling at the umpire, and then the umpire throws out Aaron Boone. I've never seen this before, and I've seen some of the most power-hungry, ridiculous umpires before. I've never seen this. I've never seen somebody get ejected for something that he didn't even say.
Right. Yeah, and I heard also that he, with this ejection, he actually broke Billy Martin's record of most ejections by a Yankee manager ever.
And that's a tough record to break.
Yeah. But yeah, and also it seems from that video that it was one batter or two batters into the game.
Yeah, it was very early into the game, but like you can they were mic'd up. The umpire was mic'd up.
Correct.
And I think Aaron Boone said, at some point, I don't remember who he was responding to, but he said, "I don't care who said it." I mean, I don't care who said it. That's one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard. You're throwing the guy out for what he said. How can you say, "I don't care who said it"? That makes no sense at all. So that's kind of the point, is who said it. That's the whole point.
Right. So that was it's right. He did it. He did what basically the mics basically took John Boy's job, because John Boy, all he does is break down umpire manager fights. But
media.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was very funny. It's also, if there's a Twitter account, if you would like to follow it, I will not ever call it X. There's a Twitter account that is called Welcome to the Ump Show. That is, even as someone who's not really a baseball fan, it's a very funny account about how just umpires in baseball are the worst, especially balls and strikes. And then they're like constantly making it about themselves. And this was a huge example of this.
Yeah.
I mean, I umps and referees and I do think that some of them do have a complex of like, I'm on stage right now.
Yeah, I think that there's also a lot of, I think there is some of that. I think that, I don't know if it's so much that. I think it's more the fact that they have power over you, or, I mean,
right,
no real important power, but like they can throw you out, and when they get pissed off, they're going to use that. And I guess that's just sort of human nature on some level. Like if we were umpires and somebody pissed us off, we'd want to throw them out too. But sometimes these umpires, they just take it too far. And it's like, look, if you're going to eject a guy that early into the game, you got to make sure you're ejecting him. You're throwing out the right person, or in this case, make sure he actually said it. You're not going to throw out a fan for that, but Like
Right.
you'd think that they would at least have like the competency, and an MLB umpire would have the competency to like figure out who says what.
Yeah, I agree.
Uh,
I
yeah, so
agree. I also, and I wanted to mention that what's going on as well, because I see the Yankees were playing the A's. What's going on with the Oakland A's is also like a very big embarrassment to Major League Baseball, I think.
with
Uh,
with the whole
Basically, they're moving them to Sacramento for 2 years
yeah.
to play in a minor league baseball stadium, and I don't think that they're going to go to Las Vegas because they're actually voting on funding the stadium in Las Vegas very soon, and I think that will probably lose. I mean, you have to think Kansas City denied building the Chiefs a new stadium
Right.
recently. I think
and that's the Chiefs. Really big.
Exactly. And I think that people in America, even though sports are becoming the biggest thing in America by far, but people in America are becoming very on the Bill Simmons side of the argument when it comes to sports stadiums. So I think that what's happening with them is a big black mark, because then what happens if Vegas says no to the stadium? Then they've got a team in Sacramento at a minor league baseball stadium, and it just gets worse and worse.
Yeah, so that's what's so confusing about it. So they already chose to make the move before anybody voted on it in Las Vegas. Is that what happened?
Yeah, they didn't. They don't even have. Vegas gave them. We talked about this on an early episode, but Vegas gave them a plot of. Said, we want you to put this plot of land downtown. Now, if you've ever been to Vegas, downtown is Old Town Vegas, so which they're kind of revamping.
It's not the Strip.
Yeah, right. It's Old Town, basically, where the older casinos were. I think Circa, which is the biggest sports book, I think that's in downtown. But they said, it was a nice plot of land, and it was, right off the highway, and blah, 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 blah. And the A's said no, and said they wanted to go where the Tropicana is, or was. The Tropicana closed. And Vegas is, was like, we have a problem with traffic here. We have a problem with, the rent going up and all this stuff in Vegas. There's, a cost of living going high. We already have horrible traffic construction. We don't want the stadium here. And so it's also, I don't think we've ever seen a team move to somewhere that didn't want them. That I don't think we've ever seen.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is a good point. That
it's not a draw. Like the thing is, like, it's, even though the Raiders probably draw some people, but there's not, like, it doesn't draw you to. There's no one I don't think is going to Vegas. Okay, I'm going to go see a baseball game, honestly, because, like, if you're going to Vegas, you're probably going to go to Vegas anyway. So it doesn't really make a lot of sense. And
I think some people go to Vegas. I think that's kind of true. I think some people would go to Vegas to see a football game, or at least they would choose to go on a particular week. Like, let's say your team is playing the Raiders.
Correct.
You might say, I'm going to go to Vegas this weekend because my team is playing the Raiders.
Yeah.
I think the same thing could be true in baseball. You might say, I'm going to go to Vegas this weekend because the A's are playing the Mets or the Yankees or whoever. I think that might be a thing on some level, but it's certainly not on the same level as football.
No. And it's also probably about 60. It's probably about mid 60s during football season, and easily into the hundreds during baseball season,
right,
in Las Vegas. But yeah, it looks bad for baseball. I think that they should expand. They should go to Vegas, and they should go to probably Nashville. But
or Charlotte.
If you ask people in Vegas, they like the Golden Knights, the hockey team, much more than they like the Raiders, because the Golden Knights were organically grown there. And this is just a disaster. And also, it doesn't. What's the difference? Because if they go to Vegas and the owner still doesn't spend any money, then the team is just going to win 50 games every year, and it's just going to be another embarrassment.
Well, yeah, but you also have to remember, like, that happens with that could be the case with any team that moves. A lot of times, most of the time when teams move, they're not really in the best. They're not always in the best position in the sport.
I mean, yeah, but I just don't. I don't really like teams moving in the first place. I mean, I think that Seattle moving to Oklahoma City was stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, no. It often is stupid. I guess but like the thing is that this totally just blew up in the A's owner's face.
Right, and it's. I think that owners are now going to be in trouble because owners do the only reason that a team moves ever pretty much is because they want a stadium somewhere and the city says no.
Right.
That's 99%. But now when you have people voting against it, like you said, the Chiefs, who are back-to-back Super Bowl winners, the biggest thing in Kansas City by far, when they can't even get funding for a new stadium, you're going to be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah,
in terms of finding funding.
I think it's much more common for people to be voting against it. It seems like. The question is, though, it's like, so they can be in Sacramento in a minor league ballpark, but this was already built, right? It's not for.
They ran out of the lease ends in Oakland this year, and Oakland doesn't want to renew it now because they're leaving.
Right.
So they have now have to go find something to do because they haven't even broken ground yet in Las Vegas, which like I said, I don't even think they will ever break ground. I think that if you were a betting man, I would bet on them not to go to Vegas, honestly. And so now they had to find somewhere to move. So they moved to Sacramento. I mean, if they were going to move, I think that Sacramento would probably be a better choice. But in terms of it's closer to where they're from, and it just seems like there's not an interest in Vegas at all.
Yeah,
I think they're like, come here. Like
they wanted Vegas, but Vegas didn't want them.
Right.
Well, I mean, the thing is that you're still going to be. I mean, are you? I mean, if the owner probably would never have moved to Sacramento from Oakland. I don't think that would, because they're both small Northern California cities. It's not that much of an upgrade to go from Oakland to Sacramento.
Right.
So in fact, it's a downgrade because he's playing literally in a minor league ballpark.
Correct.
And it would be, I mean, if he can't go, they're not going to go to Vegas. It looks like, or possibly they might not go to Vegas. What if they end up back in Oakland? Could that happen?
I think that would be good. Yeah, if they build a new stadium there. I think that he's not going to get the guy didn't want to pay for the stadium basically in Oakland, but I think that he's not going to be able to get a stadium built anywhere. So I think if he wants a new stadium, he's going to have to pay for it.
Yeah, maybe it looks like that.
And that's it. And it is. I mean, it is true. I mean, when you look at what sports owners may have now, the money they have now, and in America where you have a cost of living crisis right now, you have people making less money. Inflation is up. People are not going to be at all sympathetic to some billionaire. We don't want to use our tax money. You already have tax money that's probably being misused. We don't want to use it to build a stadium.
Right. No, that's absolutely true. It also is weird to me how Oakland and San Francisco. It is weird to me how Oakland and San Francisco each have a team. Seems a little. I mean, I understand it's happened a lot, but those are two like tiny cities right next to each other. I wouldn't say tiny, but it's compared to like New York.
It's the fourth most populated metropolitan area in the country, actually.
San Francisco and Oakland.
Yeah,
but like, how many metropolitan areas have more than one team? New York.
Yeah.
Chicago.
LA, Chicago.
LA. Okay, so like only the top ones.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
But yeah, they're also not as close as people think. But
isn't it just a ride on the? Isn't it just like a?
Yeah, but it would be. It's like probably about 40 minutes away from each other.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I think it's just going to be a disaster, honestly, and it's going to be a disaster either way, and it looks really bad for baseball.
Yeah, or at least for this particular owner, and the A's, they're not really known for anything good.
No.
So I want to. I don't know if you saw this. Caitlin Clark signed a deal with Nike. She's going to be making 1 million times more. She's going to be. I think she has like an $80 million deal with Nike. She's going to be making so much more money than with Nike. She's almost like an Olympian. She's going to be making more money through endorsements than through her actual salary.
Yeah, which is why it was stupid that a lot of people were complaining about her salary. First of all, anyone who thinks that they should get paid, women's sports is great. It's on the rise. I love it.
I think that's good.
Anyone who thinks that they should get paid as much as the NBA is clueless, because the NBA makes 100 times the revenue, so
Right.
it's dumb. But she's going to make a lot of money through endorsement. Yeah, exactly. Which is, I mean, the highest paid athletes in sports are golfers, tennis players, because they make money through endorsement.
Right.
And that's one of the pros of women's sports being gaining popularity is they're going to make a lot of money through endorsement, and then as the time goes on, hopefully they'll be able to leagues will make revenue where you can make more yearly salary, but a lot of your money is through endorsement. I mean,
Right.
this is not specific to women either. I mean, you think about a lot of the athletes in the world, they're probably making more money off endorsement than they are. I would say LeBron probably makes more money off endorsement than he does yearly salary.
Yeah, probably. And you know what? LeBron is probably going to be a billionaire at one point.
Yeah. I mean, Michael Jordan makes far more. He makes more money a year from Jordan Brand than he made his whole career playing basketball.
Yeah, it's not even close.
It's a little different because he runs the brand, but yeah, I mean that's the endorsement is where a lot of people looked at the salary of 75,000. I mean, endorsements where that, and she's not just going to make endorsement money from Nike. She's going to do other products as well.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. And it's I think it right because like obviously like. First of all, the WNBA is not only do they not make as much money as the NBA, they're not even like remotely profitable. They're essentially subsidized by the NBA.
Right.
They also, even if they were as profitable, they only play something like half the amount of games that they play. How many games? You might know this. You know how many games they play?
Yeah, 50 something.
Okay, so it's a little more than half. So even then, the salaries would not be the same, and that's like. Are WNBA games ever even nationally televised?
Yes, all the time. But I think that also you have to look at it in a few ways too. Also, the league is the same age as us. I mean, the league is less than 30 years. If you think about, I don't think that it'd be great if it did. I don't think it'll get to the level the NBA is now. But if you think about when the NBA was 30 years old, the NBA finals were being played on tape delay on television.
Right.
So. It's not going to be it's not going to take over overnight. Now, what happened with the NBA was they had Magic Johnson and Larry Bird also kind of shot the league to the top, which maybe you could have something like that with Clark, and obviously we're seeing it with the ticket prices going up and a lot of stuff like that. But yeah, I think that they're going to make money off endorsements, and the good news of it is that they're getting a lot of commercials. I mean, Caitlin Clark is in a lot of commercials herself. So the more popular the women athletes become, the more endorsement money they're going to make. But, people who are posting, oh, she's making more than she does salary, that's actually very common.
Yeah, that's a very common thing.
I mean, tennis players only make money really if they win tournaments. The rest of the money they're making is from who they're wearing during.
No, that's absolutely true. You cannot
Same with golfers.
Yeah, that's true about professional tennis. You can't, and like you said, golf too. I'm sure it's the same way. You only make money when you win. So it's not like Francisco Lindor goes over 3. It's not like he gets money every time he gets a hit.
Right.
That would in case he'd be broke.
Right.
Yeah. That's how star Olympians get paid.
Yes, correct.
Because Olympians are amateurs. I mean, technically amateurs. They're really, they make a lot off endorsements. So we could get into this a little bit. Rangers. We don't talk a lot of hockey on this show, but your New York Rangers beat the Capitals last night.
Yeah. This is. I don't know. Maybe. Well, here's what it is. It's a year that ends in the number 4. The Rangers won the President's Trophy, and the Knicks got the 2 seed. And O.J. Simpson is in the news. And the last time that happened, the there was a year that ended in 4. The Rangers won the President's Trophy. Knicks got the 2, and O.J. Simpson was in the news. The Rangers won the Rangers won the Stanley Cup. John Starks went 0 for 10,000 in Game 7 of the NBA Finals, and the Knicks lost in Game 7 of the NBA Finals, a series they probably should have won. And I don't know, it feels it's actually the Rangers barely won tonight, and one of the reasons was the same friend that shut the game off with 40 seconds left was in the building tonight, and they never win the game when he's in the building. But the Rangers barely won tonight, but this is the first series I think I've ever watched of my teams where I don't really have a worry about it. And I've watched expecting the team to win. Rangers, I would say right now, have the best chance of any New York sports team to win the title. I would say they have a better chance than the Knicks. But it's good. I mean, I don't watch any regular season hockey. Playoff hockey is electric. I'll only watch the Rangers though. But coming back, they lost to the Devils last year in the first round, and so that could be the start of a championship DVD if the Rangers are to go far. But yeah, a good win, and the Garden has been rocking. The Garden's been on fire, and simultaneously to the Knicks coming back to win, the Islanders blew an 100-goal lead. They were up 3-0 in the third period.
That's worse than the Golden State Warriors.
And they scored. Yeah, they scored. Carolina scored to make it 3-3. And as they were showing the replay of the goal, after the goal, they scored during the replay.
Yeah.
So the broadcast came back and they scored. I also have to say the NHL playoffs are one of the stupidest things I've ever seen in my life in the way they work. So the team that's in your division, the team that wins the division plays a wild card team, and the second and third team play each other, and then the winner of that game of one plays the winner of 2-3. And what it does is just creates the same exact playoff matchups every single year. So the Islanders are playing the Hurricanes for the third straight year. The Rangers would play, if the Rangers won this series, they would play the Hurricanes for the second time in 3 years. I think that's one of the stupidest things I've ever heard. I mean, Toronto is playing Boston for the second time in 3. Tampa and Florida are playing each other for 3 straight years. That's just so stupid.
Yeah. By the way, you're talking about a year that ends in 4. What happened the last year that ends in 4?
The Rangers went to the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah, I mean, they lost, but they still went.
They did lose, yeah. That's true. So, I mean, it could happen, but I don't always – I always have faith that the Rangers will find a way to lose. But yeah, I mean, it's great to see the Garden rocking. And actually, I think that the Rangers overachieved 2 years ago. They underachieved last year. And so we'll see what happens. But they've certainly been able to hold Alex Ovechkin. He had, I think, no shots for the first time in 6 years or something in the last game they played, and he wasn't really a factor tonight. And they look good. And the sad thing about it is that I unfortunately share sports teams with Sean Morash, who is the producer of Evan and Tiki and is also one of the most annoying human beings that's ever lived. And he is nonstop about the Rangers, so it does suck that whenever they win, he wins as well. But yeah, I'm excited for a run by both teams.
Yeah. All right. So thank you for tuning in, everybody. This is moving the goalposts. So I hope you could follow me. You could follow me you can follow the show at MTGP ETB. You can follow me on Twitter at Nick DiMart. You can follow Liam at Liam MTGP. And all right, so yeah, that's everything. See you next week.